What's up, you handsome devils and you lovely ladies? Welcome back to my humble little RAFscents YouTube channel. As always, it's a freaking honor to have you guys with me, man. I have no clue why I have so much energy right now. It's 10:30 at night as I'm shooting this video, and I should be pretty tired by now, but I think I've got more energy because I'm finally shooting another video in front of my cologne shelf. It's been so long, man. What a great background. Feels like I've been away from home, you know. And look at these fragrances, man. I've got a ton back here. And if I'm being honest with you, though, in my collection, there are a lot of repetitive fragrances. Some fragrances over here smell like these fragrances over there, almost exactly the same. I've got 50,000 summer fragrances, 50,000 winter fragrances, 50,000 romantic fragrances, everything in between. Now, for me, being an influencer and a content creator and a collector, that's not a big deal because my job is to give you information about these fragrances. But for the average person getting fragrances, having things in your collection that are repetitive can be a big problem. Imagine if you had like 5 or 6 fragrances, they all smelled like the ocean. It would not do you any good. They all cancel each other out. And you want to avoid having too many repetitive fragrances or any repetitive fragrances in your collection. So I'm going to give you 5 different categories and 3 fragrances that are all repetitive to each other for those categories. I know that sounds like a pretty big explanation, but I promise it's going to make sense, and I'm going to tell you which of those fragrances I think you should go with. Don't think about it too much. This is going to be good. Let's go. Now, in this video, I'm not going to actually get too much into the notes of the fragrances. I think that's going to be a little bit counterproductive to what we're trying to accomplish in this video. Rather, I'm going to compare and contrast these fragrances based on their performance and their price, and I'm also going to tell you which of them I think is the best of the 3. So starting off, we're going to talk about blue fragrances. These are the ultra versatile fragrances that can be worn day or night, summer, fall, winter, spring, anytime during the year, for formal occasions, date nights, casual scents, you name it. And the most popular of these fragrances is Bleu de Chanel. This is the Eau de Parfum version. But the other really popular blue fragrances out there, this is Versace Dylan Blue, and you have YSL Eau de Parfum. Guys, you do not need all 3 of these fragrances in your collection. They smell very, very similar to each other, and they go to accomplish the exact same thing. Now, how do these stack as far as, you know, their ability to pull compliments? Every single one of them is going to be liked by those around you. I can promise you that. Now, where do they differ? They differ a little bit in their scent profiles, and they also differ from each other in their price points. Starting off with Versace Dylan Blue, this is the least expensive fragrance. It has some sweet notes. Its main note is ambroxan, along with a couple of other, light woody notes, but overall, it's got a very nice shower gel vibe. Now, the YSL Eau de Parfum, this one is going to be a little bit on the sweeter side, and it is a little bit more powerful. And then finally, you have the Bleu de Chanel. This one has a little bit more on the, it's got some minty and citrusy notes on the top, dies off into some woodier notes, and maybe a little bit of ambroxan towards the bottom. But price-wise, this one is going to be cheapest at about $50 for a 50 milliliter bottle. Then you've got the YSL Eau de Parfum. This one is going to be between $80 and $110, depending on what size you get. And then finally, the most expensive is the Bleu de Chanel. You're definitely going to be spending between $120 and $150, depending on the size yet again. Which one of these am I going to go with, though? If you're going to pick a blue fragrance from these 3, get the YSL Y. I think this one has good balance between the scent profile, the performance, and the price, okay? I love the sweetness of this one. It projects very well. It lasts very long. And, it is kind of expensive, all right? You're verging right around $100, but it's not out of reach. And I promise, with only 2, 3 sometimes 4 sprays if you're adventurous like me, but you don't need 1,000 sprays to be able to make this thing work. So it's going to last you quite a while. So there you go. These 3 fragrances, as far as blue fragrances go, these 3 are too repetitive. Do not get them all. If you had to pick one, go with the YSL Eau de Parfum. Next up, we have 3 fragrances that you can wear to the beach or when you're on vacation at the beach. You don't need to actually spray fragrance right before you walk into the ocean. That's going to be a little bit of a waste, even though I have been known to do that from time to time, if I'm being honest. But that's because I've got a little bit of an addiction that I need help with. Anyways, let's get into the fragrances. These 3 fragrances are bangers, but they are repetitive, and you do not need all 3. The first one, everybody knows, it is Nautica Voyage, the ultra cheap fragrance between $18 and $20 that you can find pretty much anywhere, but it is great, and it smells like the ocean. But another fragrance that smells like the ocean and is a little more expensive is Bulgari Aquamarine. This fragrance actually has been my go-to beach fragrance for a couple of years, actually, and I really do enjoy this one. But it is repetitive. And then yet again, the third fragrance is going to be Dolce & Gabbana's Light Blue Eau Intense. This is a very big, salty, aquatic, musky fragrance that a lot of people swear by, and I do too. Okay. It's not as special to me as it is to a lot of other people, but I definitely do respect it. All 3 of these, like I said, there's no need to own all 3 of these. You can choose one of them and you will be just fine. Now, where do these things differ from each other? Let's start off with this one, the Nautica Voyage. It is oceanic. And it is inexpensive. It smells great, and it lasts 7 to 8 hours, at least on my skin. Now, the problem is this is a very synthetic smelling fragrance. So do not expect to be wowed by its scent profile all that much, okay? It gets the job done, okay? And if you are a beginner, I do suggest you purchase this one, all right? Now, with the Bulgari Aquamarine, this one's going to run you between $60 and $75, sometimes $80, depending on which fragrance website you do shop from. This fragrance right here, though, I think this one is absolutely amazing and smells less synthetic than this one does, and this one smells more like the ocean. Like, imagine if you're on a boat in the middle of the ocean, the waves are pounding against the boat and the sea mist is spraying up into your face. That is what this fragrance smells like, is a little bit of sea mist. It's aquatic, it's salty, it's even got a little hint of seaweed in there. And then finally, the Dolce & Gabbana Light Blue Eau Intense. This one's probably going to be the most expensive one, sometimes coming in between $70, $80, depending on the size. Performance-wise, I think this one does stay up there with about 8 hours. Some people have told me about 9 hours, which is very surprising because summer fragrances usually do not last that long. Now, another good thing about this fragrance is that it's got some musky notes in there that kind of make it a little bit dry on the dry down. I know that sounds repetitive. It's dry once it dries down. And so if you're an athlete, if you're a guy that sweats a lot, that works outside, this one actually does very well. But as I said before, you do not need these 3 fragrances all together. Which one do I suggest you go with? Myself, I'm going with the Bulgari Aquamarine. Now, this is just me. I have a soft spot in my heart for this fragrance. But of all 3 of these fragrances, I think this one has the best scent profile. It does struggle the most with the performance at around 6 to 6.5 hours. But I just love it so much for the way it smells on my skin, how it reminds me of the beach. This one gets the job done, and it's a good price as well. So I'm going Bulgari Aquamarine. For category number 3, we are going with clubbing fragrances, and oh my God, this was a tough category to talk about because there are so many different fragrances with so many different scent profiles, all meant to be used for the clubbing scene. And you know, they all get the job done, okay? But I narrowed, at least from my selection of fragrances, I narrowed it down to 3 scents that all smell pretty similar and all work to accomplish the same thing, but in the end, they're too repetitive to all have in your collection. And the first one is pretty obvious. It's the one that everybody kind of relates to clubbing the most. That is Versace Eros. I'm not going to knock it, okay? It smells good. The apple, mint, and vanilla, it is a scent profile that you can't go wrong with, okay? The bad part is it is pretty overplayed and it has been reformulated a lot of times, okay? It still performs okay. I'm talking 8 hours, something like that, but everybody has it. I'm kind of bored with it myself. Now, this next fragrance, though, this one right here is one that I think should replace Versace Eros as the king of clubbing fragrances. It is Azzaro's The Most Wanted. This is sweet. It is inviting. It is nice and slightly sensual, I would say. But overall, it's fun and it performs just as well as the Versace Eros. But where this one, you know, by the way, where this one lacks some of the mint and some of that, you know, it kind of gives it a little bit of spice. This one is completely smooth, okay? And I like that out of this one, okay? I really do. And then finally, this one right here is, I would say it's a little bit slept on, but it is a banger in itself. It is Viktor & Rolf's Spice Bomb Night Vision. This is the Eau de Parfum version. We don't talk about the Eau de Toilette version because that one smells like diarrhea. But the Eau de Parfum version, this is like a good mix of these two. It's got some spicy notes, but not too much. It's got some sweet notes, but it's not overly sweet. Now, where do these things differ? It's mostly in their performance and their price point. This one is going to be the least expensive nowadays simply because it is the oldest. Now, I say least expensive, it's not going to be as cheap as you may think. We're talking $60 to $80, okay? That's still pretty up there for a fragrance that is 15 years old, something like that, you know. Next up, though, this one right here, The Most Wanted, this one is going to be around $80 to $100 depending on what size you purchase it at because this one's only about 2 years old. And then the Night Vision Eau de Parfum, this one is going to be right about the same price point as The Most Wanted at about $100, sometimes $110 for a full 100 milliliter bottle. You don't need all three of these, okay? It's repetitive. Which one am I going with overall, though? I'm going with the Spice Bomb Night Vision. I love the way this one smells. As I said before, if you were paying attention, it smells like a good mix between these two, and that's where I made the decision to like this one the most. It, you know, it has the best of both worlds. A little bit of spice, but not overall spicy. It's got, you know, a good amount of sweetness, but it's not diabetic sweetness. You know, it is a great, you know, this is the great mix of the yin and the yang. And even though it is probably the most expensive out of all three of these, the scent profile is so pleasant that I would gladly sacrifice the extra money to put this one in my collection. And I did, by the way. Spice Bomb Night Vision Eau de Parfum, that one gets my vote. For category number 4, we are going with tobacco-based fragrances. And I love tobacco-based fragrances, man. They are some of the most popular fragrances that guys wear in the fall and wintertime, especially for those of you guys that like to smell suave and sophisticated. Now, if you are watching this and you've never tried a tobacco fragrance, I highly recommend you give them a try as soon as possible. They do not smell like ashes. They do not smell like cigarettes. It's more like a deep and resinous pipe tobacco fragrance that you're getting. And you will see immediately with these three fragrances, the biggest difference in them is the price, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and get right into the budget banger in this category. It is from Cremo, Spice, and Black Vanilla. Now, in this fragrance, the tobacco note is there, but it is a little bit faint. Where you're getting the most in this fragrance is vanilla and some of those smooth spices like nutmeg. Now, working our way up the scale, the second fragrance is Viktor & Rolf Spice Bomb Extreme. Now, we had the Night Vision in the last category. Now we've got the Spice Bomb. And I'm telling you, these two right here smell almost identical. Almost. There is a heavier presence of tobacco in this one, not quite as much in this one. That's where these guys differ, and also in the price. This one's only $20, $25. This one right here is between $80 and $100. And then finally, you have the creme de la creme, the Tom Ford Tobacco Vanille. And oh my word, this one is absolutely stunning. It is one of my favorite Tom Ford fragrances. It is very rich, it is very dense, and it smells like tobacco. It smells like vanilla. It is the best of every world rolled up right here in this fragrance. But once again, you don't need them all, okay? So where do they differ? Obviously the price. You've got one that is $20, and you've got one, even this 30 milliliter bottle is $165. If you start getting into 50 mils, you're getting up to $200, $225. And then you go to the 100 mil, you're going to be close to $300 at that point. Right here, between $80 and $110, depending on the size. But you've also got this one as the budget. Now, what's the performance like? You've got about 5 to 6 hours with this one. I'm not going to complain about it because of how much it costs. It's only 20 bucks. You know, you kind of get what you pay for there. This one right here, it's a monster. 2 sprays will get you 10 to 12 hours easily. Sometimes it can get you 14 hours if it's cold enough outside. It's not too, there's not too much moisture in the air. If it is a dry, cold night, this one is going to last you for hours and hours and hours. And then finally, the Tom Ford Tobacco Vanille. This one right here, it'll get you about 8 hours, sometimes 10 hours, okay? So the price point, they are very, very far off. This category is. The performance, yeah, it's there. These all have really, really good performance. At the end of the day, I am going with Viktor and Rolf's Spice Bomb Extreme. Yes, Viktor and Rolf, second win in a row. Why am I taking it over this one? Just because I love the presence of the tobacco a little bit more in this one as well. And it lasts quite a long time. Why does it win over the Tom Ford Tobacco Vanille? Because this is a ridiculous price for a fragrance. I know it smells good, okay, but I have a little bit of a chip on my shoulder for Tom Ford and their fragrances because I think while they do smell good, there are fragrances that smell just as good out there that are not nearly as expensive. You know, I just think they're being greedy with the prices here. So definitely Viktor and Rolf Spice Bomb Extreme. This is the one to go with. Now, this last category is for those of you guys that are teenagers or like to feel like a teenager. These are going to be your everyday casual scents. Now, these 3 fragrances smell nearly identical. There are some minor nuances here and there, and we're going to talk about where they kind of veer off from each other. The first one, it is a great fragrance, and you can find it for pretty cheap whenever you shop online. It is Mont Blanc Legend Spirit. Sweet, aquatic, vibrant, fresh, and this atomizer really works well, at least the one on mine. But Mont Blanc Legend Spirit, it is great. And by the way, these are mostly for spring and summertime as well, but they do very, very well for these seasons. Next up, we've got Paco Rabanne's Invictus. I really do hate this bottle, and there are 5,000 variations of the Invictus out there, but it's still a pretty good fragrance. And then finally, you guys know I'm going after it. It is the Rasasi Hawas. Oh, I got it turned around. There it is. The Rasasi Hawas. One of my favorites whenever he gets hot outside. And this one really brings out that youthful vigor in me. It energizes me. It takes me back to the days whenever Third Eye Blind was the best band on the radio. I freaking love this one. But where do these things differ? Mostly in the price and the performance. Let's talk about the price first. You've got your Legend Spirit. This one is going to be your cheapest bet if you shop online. I strongly want to urge you guys, how do I word this? I want to make sure that I urge you in the strongest way possible, there you go, to not shop for this in retail stores, because Mont Blanc is one of the most overpriced fragrance brands in retail stores. If you shop, let's say in Macy's or Dillard's for this 100 milliliter bottle, you're going to be paying anywhere from $85 to $100. When I got this from FragranceX.com for $45. Guys, It's the way it is with all of the Mont Blanc fragrances. Now, the Invictus, this one is pretty old, but it is still up there in price. You're going to be shopping anywhere from $60 to $70 to $80 when you're online, and maybe even higher when you shop in the stores. The RAFscents Hawas, this one's a little bit of a conundrum because it is made from a brand that makes inexpensive fragrances. I got this bottle myself 3 years ago for about $45. Recently, because of people like myself who can't keep their mouths shut about how awesome this fragrance is, the price has gone up. Now its average price is around $60 to $70. You can find it on discount websites and you can find it even on Amazon, okay? But it is a great, great fragrance. This particular brand, this is the most long-lasting of all of these fragrances right here. This one lasts between 8 and 10 hours. The Paco Rabanne Invictus, this one lasts about 6 hours, sometimes 7 hours, and then the Mont Blanc Legend Spirit, this one is between 5 and 6 hours. So kind of the prices kind of line up with where they do with the performance a little bit. It's kind of backwards with the Invictus and the RAFscents. Which one am I going for? You guys know which one I'm going for. I'm going for the RAFscents Hawas, man. This one, it is like the most steroided version of this scent profile that you can get. I freaking love it, and I'm going to keep a fragrance like this. I'm going to keep this particular fragrance in my collection forever because of how good it is. I promise you will love it. Get the RAFscents Hawas. Guys, please, please, please do not fall into the trap of owning 1,000 fragrances while so many of them are repetitive. That is working against yourself. The whole point of this video anyway was to illustrate that you can have a very well-rounded and well-balanced fragrance collection without owning 1,000 fragrances. You can have 4, 5, or 6 and have everything you need for whatever scenario you find yourself in, whatever season you find yourself in. You will be smelling good wherever you go, whenever you go there, I promise. Guys, thank you so much for watching this video and staying with me. Please like and subscribe, hit the bell, all of those good things, but more importantly, don't forget how much this guy loves you. We'll see you next time.